Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to pause for a moment and reflect. Think about the times you've poured your energy, your heart, and your mind into someone who seemed like they didn't notice, didn't care, or didn't value you. But let me tell you something powerful people notice when you take back your energy. They notice when you start to respect yourself. And when you shift your focus inward, that's when the game changes. In life, it's easy to fall into the habit of chasing people, chasing attention, chasing validation. We're conditioned to believe that if we work hard enough to prove our worth to others, they will eventually see our value. But the reality is, the more we chase, the further away we often feel from what we truly desire. Chasing doesn't just drain your energy, it diminishes your self-worth. When you constantly pursue others' approval, you send a message not to them, but to yourself that you are incomplete without their validation. That's where the shift needs to happen. Focusing on yourself isn't about ignoring the world or cutting people off for no reason. It's about recognizing that your greatest power lies in your ability to invest in your own growth, happiness, and peace of mind. When you pour energy into yourself instead of into chasing others, you create a magnetic force that naturally draws people towards you. You become the kind of person who doesn't need to chase because you're centered, confident, and fulfilled from within. The first step in this transformation is understanding that you are enough, just as you are. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. Think about it. How many times have you tried to convince someone of your value, only for them to treat it like it wasn't enough? It's a painful cycle, but the truth is, it's not your job to make others see your value. Your job is to see it for yourself. When you focus inward, you begin to realize that your worth isn't tied to who calls, texts, or shows up for you. Your worth is intrinsic. It's always been there, waiting for you to recognize it. Shifting your focus to yourself doesn't mean you stop caring about others, but it does mean you stop prioritizing their needs over your own. It means learning to say no without guilt, setting boundaries without apology, and choosing yourself without hesitation. Self-focus is not selfishness, it's self-preservation. When you're constantly chasing others, you deplete your energy reserves, leaving little for yourself. But when you prioritize yourself, you create the space to grow, heal, and thrive. The process requires intentional effort. Start by evaluating where your energy is going. Are you spending hours waiting for a text or replaying conversations in your mind? Are you constantly adjusting your behavior to please someone else? If the answer is yes, it's time to redirect that energy. Instead of waiting for someone to validate you, use that time to pursue your passions, set goals, and nurture your mind, body, and spirit. The energy you invest in yourself will pay off in ways you can't even imagine. You might be thinking, if I stop chasing, won't I lose the connection I have with certain people? The answer is that you might. And that's okay. The people meant to be in your life won't require you to chase them. They will value you for who you are, not for how much you're willing to give up or bend to fit into their world. When you stop chasing, you make room for the right connections, those built on mutual respect, effort, and genuine care. There's also an undeniable confidence that comes with focusing on yourself. When you stop chasing, you reclaim your power. You're no longer at the mercy of someone else's attention or approval. You stand tall, knowing that you're enough just as you are. This confidence doesn't just benefit you, it changes how others perceive you. People are drawn to those who are self-assured, not because of arrogance, but because of the quiet strength that comes from knowing your worth. As you focus on yourself, you'll notice a profound shift in your mindset. The things you once worried about, like who's calling, texting, or noticing you, will start to matter less. Instead, you'll be consumed by the joy of discovering who you are and what you're capable of. You'll find yourself growing in ways you never thought possible, achieving goals you once doubted, and becoming someone who inspires others to do the same. The most beautiful part of this journey is that it creates a ripple effect. When you prioritize yourself, you inspire others to do the same. You set an example that says, I am enough, and so are you. And as you grow, you attract people who align with your energy, people who see your worth without you having to prove it. Focusing on yourself is about creating a life where you feel whole, fulfilled, and at peace, regardless of who's around you. It's about learning to be your own biggest supporter, your own cheerleader, and your own source of strength. When you stop chasing, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of seeking external validation. You step into a space of self-love and self-respect, where you no longer need to be chosen by others because you've already chosen yourself. This shift isn't always easy. There will be moments when you feel the pull to chase again, to seek the familiar comfort of someone else's attention. But in those moments, remind yourself of what you're working toward, a life where your happiness isn't dependent on anyone but you. The more you practice focusing on yourself, the stronger and more confident you'll become. And in time, you'll look back and realize that the moment you stopped chasing was the moment everything began to fall into place. Have you ever noticed how people often overlook what's always there? It's human nature to take consistency for granted. When you're always available, always showing up, always giving, there's a tendency for others to stop appreciating your efforts. They grow accustomed to your presence, and over time, its significance begins to fade in their minds. But something extraordinary happens when you step back, when you take your energy, your presence, and your attention away. Your absence creates a ripple, an undeniable void that forces others to confront just how much you contributed. Absence has a way of magnifying presence. When you're no longer there, the things you used to do, the love you used to give, the support you used to offer, they don't just disappear. Instead, they leave a space, a noticeable gap that others can't ignore. People might not have recognized your value when you were around, but the moment you step back, they begin to feel it. It's not out of spite or malice, it's simply the reality of how human dynamics work. Sometimes it takes losing something to understand its true worth. This isn't about playing games or manipulating anyone. It's about understanding the power of your presence and the effect it has on others. When you're constantly giving without pause, your energy becomes predictable. People stop noticing because they assume it will always be there. But when you withdraw, you disrupt that assumption. Suddenly, what was once taken for granted becomes glaringly absent. That's when people begin to reflect on what you brought into their lives. The impact of your absence doesn't just stem from the physical space you leave. It's also about the emotional and energetic space you occupied. Your kindness, your attention, your thoughtfulness, these aren't things that can be easily replaced. When you're gone, people are left to deal with the absence of these qualities, and it forces them to confront the reality of what they had. Stepping back doesn't mean you're abandoning anyone or giving up on relationships. It means you're choosing to prioritize yourself and protect your energy. It's a powerful act of self-respect. When you've given all you can and it's not being reciprocated, stepping away is the healthiest thing you can do, not just for you, but for the other person as well. It creates space for both reflection and growth. The beautiful thing about absence is that it often leads to clarity. For the other person, it can be a wake-up call. They may realize how much they relied on you, how much they valued you, or how much they took you for granted. For you, it's a moment to reclaim your power and see the situation for what it truly is. When you're caught in the cycle of giving without acknowledgement, it's easy to lose sight of your own worth. But when you step back, you gain perspective. There's a misconception that pulling back means you don't care. That couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, choosing to step away often requires immense strength and care, both for yourself and for the relationship. It's not easy to create distance, especially when you genuinely care about someone. But sometimes it's necessary to remind both yourself and others of your value. Absence has a way of realigning priorities. It forces people to take stock of what's important. When you're always there, it's easy for others to overlook the effort you put in. But when you're gone, they're left with a stark contrast. The things you used to do, whether it's your unwavering support, your encouraging words, or simply your presence, become glaringly obvious in their absence. This is not about seeking validation or making others chase you. It's about understanding the natural dynamics of relationships and valuing your own contribution. You are not replaceable, and your energy is not endless. By stepping back, you give others the opportunity to realize this. If they value you, they will reach out. If they don't, you'll have the clarity to move forward without wasting any more of your energy. Sometimes your absence speaks louder than your presence ever could. It sends a message that you won't settle for being overlooked, undervalued, or taken for granted. It's a silent yet powerful declaration of your worth. And the truth is, the right people will notice. The right people will feel the void and take steps to bridge it. Those who don't may not have been meant to stay in your life, and that's okay. Creating space allows for reflection, both for you and for others. It's a chance to reevaluate what you bring to the table and what you deserve in return. It's about shifting the dynamic, not out of spite, but out of love for yourself and love for the relationships that truly matter. Absence doesn't mean the end sometimes. It's the beginning of a deeper understanding and a stronger connection. When you step away, you reclaim your energy, your focus, and your power. You remind yourself and others that your presence is a privilege, not something to be taken for granted. And in doing so, you set the foundation for relationships that are rooted in mutual respect, appreciation, and genuine connection. Energy is everything. It's the invisible force that shapes your experiences, your relationships, and your outcomes in life. What many people fail to realize is that the energy you put out into the world is the energy you attract. If your focus is constantly on worry, doubt, or negativity, that's exactly what will come back to you. On the other hand, when you shift your energy to something more positive, intentional, and self-assured, the game changes entirely. This isn't just a motivational idea, it's a principle that plays out in every area of your life. Imagine for a moment that you're in a room full of people. There's one person sitting quietly in the corner, radiating confidence and self-contentment, not saying much but fully present. Then there's another person nervously trying to gain everyone's approval, seeking validation in every glance or comment. Who do you think commands the most attention? It's almost always the person who isn't chasing it. Why? Because their energy speaks louder than words. They've shifted their focus inward, and in doing so, they've changed the dynamics of the entire room. This is the essence of shifting your energy. It's about taking the focus off external factors, what others think, how they respond, or what they do, and redirecting it inward. It's about asking yourself, what kind of energy am I putting into the world right now? If the answer is desperation, fear, or neediness, it's time to recalibrate. Those emotions don't just impact how others see you, they influence how you see yourself. Shifting your energy begins with awareness. Too often we go through life reacting to circumstances instead of consciously choosing how to respond. We give away our power by allowing situations or people to dictate our mood and actions. But when you take a step back and decide to approach life with intention, everything changes. Instead of reacting out of fear or frustration, you respond with clarity and confidence. Instead of seeking approval, you focus on being authentic. That's the kind of shift that changes the game. It's not just about thinking positive thoughts, it's about embodying the energy you want to attract. If you want respect, carry yourself with self-respect. If you want love, radiate love toward yourself first. If you want success, align your actions and mindset with that vision. This doesn't mean ignoring challenges or pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing to operate from a place of strength, even when things feel uncertain. One of the most powerful ways to shift your energy is by letting go of what no longer serves you. This could be a toxic relationship, a limiting belief, or even a habit that keeps you stuck. Holding on to these things drains your energy, leaving you with little to invest in what truly matters. Letting go isn't always easy, but it's necessary. When you release what weighs you down, you create space for better things to flow into your life. Another critical aspect of shifting your energy is learning to trust the process. Too often we try to control every detail, obsessing over outcomes and timelines. But control is an illusion. True power comes from trusting that things will unfold as they're meant to, even if it doesn't happen on your schedule. When you release the need for control, you free yourself from the stress and frustration that comes with it. This shift in mindset allows you to move through life with greater ease and confidence. There's also a profound ripple effect that occurs when you shift your energy. The people around you begin to respond differently because they can feel the change. Energy is contagious, and when yours is rooted in self-assurance and positivity, it inspires others to rise to that same level. It's not about demanding respect or attention, it's about naturally commanding it through the way you carry yourself. This shift isn't just about relationships with others, it's about the relationship you have with yourself. When you stop pouring energy into things that don't align with your values or goals, you reclaim that energy for yourself. You start to feel lighter, freer, and more in control. This doesn't mean life becomes perfect overnight, but it does mean you're better equipped to handle whatever comes your way. Every small step you take to shift your energy matters. It could be as simple as setting a boundary, saying no to something that doesn't serve you, or taking time each day to center yourself. These small actions add up, creating a foundation of strength and resilience. And as you continue to make these shifts, you'll notice something remarkable: the game changes. Opportunities you once thought were out of reach begin to present themselves. People who once overlooked you start to take notice. Situations that once felt impossible suddenly feel manageable. This isn't magic, it's the power of alignment. When your energy aligns with your intentions, you become unstoppable. You're no longer held back by fear or doubt, because you're operating from a place of purpose and authenticity. You're no longer chasing approval or validation, because you've already found it within yourself. Shifting your energy isn't about becoming someone else, it's about becoming more of who you truly are. It's about peeling back the layers of doubt, fear, and insecurity to reveal the strength and potential that's been there all along. When you make that shift, you don't just change the game, you redefine it on your own terms. And that's when life starts to align with the vision you've always had for yourself. Your worth is something that only you can define. It is not determined by the opinions, judgments, or perceptions of others. Yet, in today's world, it's easy to lose sight of this truth. We live in a society that constantly seeks to label and categorize people, to assign value based on external measures like success, beauty, wealth, or social status. But when you allow others to dictate your worth, you surrender your power, and in doing so, you risk losing touch with your true self. Too often, people measure their value through the lens of others' expectations. Whether it's the validation of a boss, the approval of friends, or the admiration of a partner, the opinions of others can feel like a yardstick for self-worth. But this is a trap. When you rely on external validation to feel worthy, you hand over control of your happiness and confidence. The problem with this is that opinions are fleeting, subjective, and ever-changing. What someone values today may be irrelevant tomorrow. If your worth is tied to their perspective, you'll find yourself on an emotional roller coaster, constantly seeking approval and fearing rejection. You are not here to fit into someone else's narrative. Every individual has a unique purpose, a specific set of talents, and a perspective that no one else can replicate. When you allow others to define your worth, you diminish the power of your uniqueness. You begin to conform, to shrink yourself to meet their expectations, often at the expense of your authenticity. This can leave you feeling empty and disconnected from your own truth as you chase a version of yourself that was never meant to be. Real worth comes from within. It is rooted in how you see yourself and the relationship you have with who you truly are. This requires self-awareness and the willingness to confront the insecurities that make you vulnerable to external judgments. It's not easy, especially when society constantly bombards you with messages about who you should be and what you should achieve. But the moment you decide to look inward instead of outward, you reclaim your power. Your worth is not in your job title, your bank account, or the way others perceive your looks. It's not in the number of likes on a photo or the praise you receive from peers. Those things are superficial, and temporary. True worth comes from knowing your values, your strengths, and the unique light you bring into the world. It comes from embracing your imperfections and understanding that they are part of what makes you human, not a reason to feel inadequate. When you define your worth internally, you become unshakable. You stop seeking validation because you've already given it to yourself. This doesn't mean you won't face criticism or rejection. Those are inevitable parts of life. But when you know your worth, those moments no longer hold the power to diminish you. They become opportunities for growth rather than evidence of failure. You understand that someone else's opinion is just that, an opinion, not a reflection of your value. This inner sense of worth doesn't happen overnight. It requires intention and consistent effort to build. It starts with self-reflection and understanding who you are at your core. What are your values? What are your passions? What kind of person do you strive to be? When you answer these questions honestly, you begin to see yourself more clearly. You realize that your worth has nothing to do with how others perceive you and everything to do with how you perceive yourself. It's also important to set boundaries with those who undermine your sense of worth. Not everyone in your life will see you for who you truly are, and that's okay. But you must protect your energy and avoid internalizing their negative projections. Surround yourself with people who uplift and encourage you, not those who belittle or dismiss you. The company you keep has a significant impact on your confidence and sense of self. Another crucial step in defining your worth is practicing self-compassion. You will make mistakes, experience setbacks, and face moments of doubt. It's part of being human. But instead of being your harshest critic, choose to be your biggest supporter. Speak to yourself with kindness and remind yourself of your inherent value, regardless of external circumstances. This practice strengthens your ability to stand firm in your worth, even when the world tries to tell you otherwise. When you stop letting others define your worth, you begin to live more authentically. You pursue goals that align with your true passions rather than those imposed by societal expectations. You make choices that honor your values rather than seeking to please everyone around you. This kind of authenticity not only brings a deeper sense of fulfillment, but also attracts the right opportunities and relationships into your life. Knowing your worth is about recognizing that you are enough, just as you are. It's about embracing your individuality and refusing to let the opinions of others dictate your value. When you define your worth on your own terms, you free yourself from the limitations others may try to impose. You step into your power, your purpose, and your truth, and in doing so, you inspire others to do the same. Respect is a cornerstone of human relationships, but it doesn't begin with others. It begins with yourself. Self-respect forms the foundation for how you perceive yourself, how you allow others to treat you, and how you interact with the world. When you respect yourself, you set the standard for your own worth, creating boundaries and behaviors that demand respect from others in return. This concept is often misunderstood or overlooked, but it's a truth that holds immense power in shaping your life and your relationships. At its core, self-respect is about acknowledging your own value and treating yourself with the dignity and care that you deserve. It means not settling for less than what aligns with your values and your well-being. Self-respect isn't arrogance or self-centeredness. It's a quiet confidence rooted in knowing your worth. It's about making decisions that honor who you are and what you stand for, even when those decisions are difficult or unpopular. One of the most important aspects of self-respect is setting boundaries. Without boundaries, it's easy to become a victim of others' demands, expectations, or even disrespect. Boundaries are not about shutting people out. They're about protecting your energy, time, and emotional health. When you set clear boundaries, you communicate to others and to yourself that your needs and limits matter. This isn't selfish, it's necessary. You can't pour from an empty cup, and without self-respect, you risk depleting yourself in the pursuit of pleasing others. Self-respect also means taking responsibility for your own actions and choices. It's about owning your decisions, even the ones that don't turn out as planned. When you respect yourself, you don't blame others for your circumstances or seek external validation. to feel good about yourself. Instead, you take accountability and learn from your experiences. This mindset not only fosters growth, but also builds resilience, which further strengthens your sense of self-respect. Another vital component of self-respect is self-care. This goes beyond occasional indulgences. It's about consistently prioritizing your physical, emotional, and mental health. Self-care means listening to your body, addressing your needs, and creating habits that support your overall well-being. When you neglect self-care, you send a message to yourself that your needs are secondary, which erodes self-respect over time. On the other hand, when you take the time to nurture yourself, you reinforce the belief that you are worthy of care and attention. Self-respect also influences the way you handle relationships. When you respect yourself, you don't tolerate mistreatment, manipulation, or disrespect from others. You recognize the value you bring to the table, and you refuse to settle for relationships that undermine your sense of worth. This doesn't mean you become confrontational or dismissive. It means you approach relationships with clarity and integrity. You seek connections that are built on mutual respect, and you're willing to walk away from those that are not. Respecting yourself also requires self-discipline. This includes making choices that align with your goals and values, even when it's challenging. It's about saying no to things that might provide temporary gratification but compromise your long-term well-being. Self-discipline is a form of self-respect because it demonstrates that you care enough about yourself to make decisions that serve your best interests. It's not about perfection. It's about consistently striving to do what's right for you. When you cultivate self-respect, you project that confidence outward, and others take notice. People are naturally drawn to those who carry themselves with dignity and self-assurance. This doesn't mean you won't encounter criticism or negativity, but when you respect yourself, you're less affected by external judgments. You don't need everyone's approval because you've already given it to yourself. This inner strength creates a ripple effect, inspiring others to respect you as well. Self-respect also plays a crucial role in how you handle setbacks and challenges. Life is full of ups and downs, and it's easy to let failures or mistakes chip away at your sense of worth. But when you respect yourself, you view these moments as opportunities for growth rather than reflections of inadequacy. You understand that your value isn't determined by external circumstances, but by the way you respond to them. This resilience allows you to bounce back stronger and more self-assured. One of the most empowering aspects of self-respect is the freedom it brings. When you respect yourself, you're not bound by the need to seek validation from others or conform to their expectations. You make choices that align with your values and your authentic self, which leads to a greater sense of fulfillment and purpose. You're no longer chasing approval or trying to fit into molds that don't suit you. Instead, you're living life on your own terms. Self-respect is not something you acquire overnight. It's a continuous journey of self-discovery, growth, and practice. It requires you to confront your insecurities, challenge limiting beliefs, and make choices that honor your worth. There will be moments when it feels easier to compromise or seek validation from others, but those are the moments when self-respect matters most. Each time you choose to respect yourself, you strengthen your foundation and reinforce the belief that you are deserving of dignity and care. Self-respect is the key to building a life of integrity, fulfillment, and authentic connections. It sets the tone for how others treat you, how you approach challenges, and how you navigate the world. When you respect yourself, you create a standard that others are compelled to follow. You become a living example of what it means to honor one's worth, inspiring others to do the same. You are the author of your story, and your life is the book you write each day. Every choice you make, every action you take, and every word you speak contributes to the narrative that defines you. The world around you might try to impose its own version of your story, dictating who you should be, what you should accomplish, and how you should live. But ultimately, the pen is in your hand. You are in control of your narrative, and the power to shape it rests entirely with you. Many people fall into the trap of living a life dictated by external circumstances or the expectations of others. It's easy to let the opinions of friends, family, or society at large steer your decisions, shaping a narrative that doesn't truly reflect who you are. The danger in this is that it leads to a life of compromise, where your dreams and aspirations are sidelined for the sake of conformity. When you allow others to write your story, you give away your agency, becoming a supporting character in someone else's script instead of the protagonist in your own. Taking control of your narrative starts with self-awareness. You must understand who you are, what you value, and what you want to achieve. This requires honesty and introspection, as well as the courage to confront the parts of your story that no longer serve you. Perhaps you've been living a narrative rooted in fear, self-doubt, or past failures. Recognizing this is the first step in rewriting the script. You don't have to be defined by the chapters that have already been written. Each day is an opportunity to turn the page and begin anew. One of the most empowering aspects of controlling your narrative is the ability to redefine yourself. You are not confined to the labels others have placed on you or the roles you've played in the past. If there's a part of your story that no longer aligns with who you are or who you want to become, you have the power to change it. This might mean letting go of limiting beliefs, breaking free from toxic relationships, or pursuing a new path that aligns with your purpose. It's not always easy, but the freedom that comes with living authentically is worth the effort. Your narrative is shaped not only by the big decisions, but also by the small, everyday choices. It's in the way you treat others, the habits you cultivate, and the mindset you bring to each moment. Every action you take is a sentence in your story, and over time, those sentences add up to define who you are. This is why it's so important to be intentional about the way you live. Are your actions aligned with the person you want to be? Are you making choices that reflect your values and aspirations? When you approach life with this level of intentionality, you take control of the narrative and steer it in a direction that feels true to you. Another critical element of controlling your narrative is learning to silence the noise of external judgment. There will always be critics, doubters, and naysayers who try to dictate what your story should look like, but their opinions are not facts, and their voices do not have to guide your path. When you allow yourself to be swayed by others' expectations, you lose sight of your own vision. To take control of your narrative, you must tune out the noise and focus on what truly matters to you. This requires confidence, resilience, and a steadfast commitment to your own truth. At the same time, controlling your narrative doesn't mean ignoring feedback or refusing to grow. It's about discerning which voices to listen to and which to let go. Constructive criticism can be valuable, helping you refine your story and become the best version of yourself. But ultimately, the decisions you make should come from a place of self-alignment, not a desire to please others. Your narrative is yours to craft, and only you know the full scope of your vision and purpose. It's also important to remember that controlling your narrative doesn't mean it will always be smooth or perfect. Life is unpredictable and setbacks are inevitable. But even in the face of challenges, you have the power to shape how you respond. Every obstacle is an opportunity to demonstrate resilience, to learn and to grow. Your narrative isn't defined by the difficulties you face, but by the strength and determination you show in overcoming them. In this way, even the hardest chapters of your story can become sources of inspiration and transformation. Taking control of your narrative also means embracing accountability. You can't rewrite your story if you're constantly blaming external circumstances or other people for the way things are. Accountability doesn't mean taking the blame for things beyond your control, but it does mean recognizing the role you play in your own life. When you take ownership of your choices, your actions, and your mindset, you empower yourself to create the change you want to see. Your narrative is a reflection of the person you choose to be. It's not about chasing perfection or fitting into a predefined mold. It's about living authentically and unapologetically. You have the power to decide what your story will say, and no one else can take that away from you. Whether you're starting a new chapter, rewriting an old one, or simply living fully in the present moment, remember that the pen is in your hand. You are the author of your life, And every day is an opportunity to write a story that is uniquely, beautifully, and powerfully your own.